Welcome to The Clown is Down, where you can get mad at us for our opinions. This is Keith.
And I'm Pete.
And in each episode, we will be bringing out our innermost feelings about a wide variety of subjects, from action figures to crosswalks,
Movies to beluga whales.
So sit back and give us a listen.
Remember, we're doing this for you.
Double remember, it's just an opinion. All right, so here, okay, welcome to The Clown is Down. This is Keith.
And this is Pete.
And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about...
What is that?
Soundtracks.
What is that thing? I want one of those, man.
This is the Bliptronic. The captain bought it for me a while back. Oh, she hates it.
I can see why.
It's awesome. I love this thing. So here's a little brief history because
give us a history on soundtracks.
I know that it was weird the way I did it, but first off, I had to ask myself, what is a soundtrack?
In a world where music is played in films.
Well, it could be a bunch of things. It could be a dialogue track, a sound effects track, or a music track. And then you mix all those things together and you get a composite track. But that is not what we're going to talk about.
No.
Not at all. No. We are going to talk about soundtrack albums or the original motion picture soundtracks, also known as music from the original motion picture soundtrack, also known as music from and inspired by the motion picture. That was like all the word. That was all the descriptions of it. And, and to be even clearer, we're not talking about the score of a movie.
Right. We're talking about the movie, the music associated with films.
Yeah, because the scores are the instrumentals. I would say mostly orchestral and background music that helps set the mood or steer the pacing.
I think everybody knows. I think everybody knows what we're talking about.
I mean, not like dubstep to announce that Jaws is coming,
Jaws 2021.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
No, but what...
If that happens, patent pending, if that happens.
Yes. No, but what I did learn, reading about, the first soundtrack from a film or movie was.
What's that?
1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
I was going to say Gone with the Wind, but that doesn't make any sense.
The soundtrack was released in January of 1938 on 78s.
They don't make the 10-inch? I guess that's the 78.
The 78s were records made between 1898 and 1950. And so
it's that setting on your turntable that no one ever uses.
So the first live action soundtrack was from a movie called Till the Clouds Roll By in 1946, 9 years after Snow White.
Did Disney release any other soundtracks, or was it all just? Was there that gap?
No, I think there was that gap. I didn't really look to see if any other. So I was just I went straight from. I was like, oh, that's animated. I was like, well, what's the first live? But a majority of the soundtracks before the 70s were mostly musicals. But after the 1970s, the soundtrack started to take off, and they started to include popular songs like just chart toppers and soon to be released on the soundtrack.
Songs written for movies.
Yes. Sometimes there will be extra tracks that we're not including in the movie, but we're only on the soundtrack. And that was my brief history.
I thought I was gonna like more soundtracks. Yeah. But I don't. I like songs. I think I just like certain songs on the soundtrack. Maybe several songs on the soundtrack. I don't think there was any that maybe. I don't want to say none, but I think for the most part, I was like, man, I don't think I dig this whole album. I don't know. Soundtracks are weird. I guess you gotta either really like the movie or really like all the songs or the tone that all the songs set.
Well, one that stand out to me mostly. And it's funny because it's a soundtrack I never owned, like the real copy. I had a bootleg copy that was given to my brother, who handed it to me and said, I don't like anything on this. You might like it. And it was at a time in my life when I was just really starting to discover other music other than what was playing on the radio. And I fell in love with everything. And it was my quest to find every single one of those bands on there. And it was finally, it took years to figure out what it was because I still had no idea, but it was the Repo Man soundtrack.
That's excellent. So you didn't know the music came from Repo Man?
I had no idea. It was a bootleg. It was a copy of a soundtrack someone gave to my brother, and he handed it to me and said, "I don't like any of this."
I don't like any of this.
And and he handed it to me, and that's what it was, because it was, I don't know if it was all the Repo Man soundtrack, but it was a majority of the songs, because years later when I saw the movie,
it all clicked.
It put together. I was like, that song's in there. I looked up and I was like, wow, that song. I was like, that's where some of those songs came from. So it was like a bunch of those songs were on there, but it's what opened it opened the doorway.
I think Repo Man was a lot of our like first taste of punk rock and that kind of maybe not new wave, but like punk rock. Like, you know, we grew up where we grew up. We weren't exposed to it at a very young age. We just weren't. I mean, we got it from somebody. I got a lot of shit, you know, from you, honestly. And, you know, my sister was older than me and she liked all the skaters and, you know, whatever shirt they were wearing, she'd come home with that band written down and we'd start, you know, she'd give it to me because she didn't like it. You know, she didn't give a shit about any of that music. And, you know, then I would start my quest to find stuff, you know, and mixtapes and bootleg. I guess that's, you know, pirating music back in the day. We made mixtapes for each other. And, you know, I still remember a tape I got in 6th grade from a very, you'd know if I said the name, but he just didn't want it. And I wish I still had this tape because it started with the Dead Kennedys, 2 songs, and then it went into 2 GBH songs, and then just like this good hardcore punk rock, and I loved it. And I wish I still had this tape. I wore it into the ground, and I don't know. I think Repo Man, for a lot of us, that was our first like, wow, this is not on the radio. This isn't stuff where you know, I want some more of this. What else can I find that has this in it?
Oh, and when I was actually talking, I was telling the lady that married me, like, I was telling her about I was telling her about Repo Man. I was just talking about it, and I was like, 'cause, you know, after researching and going through all the just thinking about the history of soundtracks with me, Repo Man, when I was trying to find all these songs, and I still didn't know, I don't know, back in the day, like, you know, at the Market Square, when they had the Camelot music, when they had the 2 set, that was just at that time, this is like 1988, folks, or 1987, maybe 87.
That was Market Square.
Yeah, so it was either that but there was only 2 rows of alternative tapes, and it just said alternative. Yeah. That's what it said, 2 rows. And I would go down there, it might be 88, you know,
college radio.
Yeah, it just said alternative. And I would go down there and I was looking at all of them, and I was like, okay, one of these has to be it. And the tapes were like $6, $6 to $9 each. And I would go down there. My mom would take me down there to that mall, and I would go in there and I would buy 1 cassette every time. And that was like, and I would pick it by cover. I was just like,
that was the beauty of like old tapes, is you didn't know that we didn't know the bands. We had no idea. And we solely were like, this band, there's a skull on this. I'm getting this.
Well, my mom was like, when I first went down there, I remember the very first one that I bought that really changed everything. Dead Milkman's Big Lizard in My Backyard.
Man, I was just about to tell a story about that same tape. Yeah.
It was the cover.
Big Lizard. Yeah.
It was yellow. It was yellow. It stood out. It was yellow. It said Dead Milkman. And I was like, and you know what? I was probably robbed by Dead Kennedys, you know, and like, I just didn't know it. I just picked it up. And I thought the Dead Kennedys was there too, but I didn't like, it was the hand. It was
in Garbage. Is that in Garbage?
And I just saw, and I was like, Dead Milkman. And
or the giant lizard.
And I started reading the thing, and I was like, oh, this one. And like, I got that one and just wore that one out. Like, just
I still love that. Dead Milkman will always be like one of my all-time favorite bands ever.
Up there.
Like ever.
Up there.
Seeing them live, I think that was the last band I saw at the Old Masquerade.
Yeah,
we went, and man, it was the best show ever. But I remember we were going to drive. No, was it? I think we were driving to. No. I was in 6th grade, and I went to Turtles.
Turtles.
And I got that tape, and I was just like, because I had heard Bitch and Chimera, and I'd heard all the other songs, and I knew of the Dead Milkman. I was like, I want my own, and I just seeing that tape in my hands for the first time, the yellow and green and red covered, the Dead Milkmen. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is the best. Oh, it's I love that album. I still love that album.
The top one for me out of all their albums, because it was like, I remember putting it in because I had those headphones glued to me all the time, and it didn't have a radio on it, so I only had a cassette. You know what I mean? It didn't have it was just a Walkman, a Sony Walkman with just a cassette, and I would listen to it. It was silver, and I just listen to things on repeat, and that kind of leads me to another one, another soundtrack that I had growing up. That was, I listened to it yesterday, while cleaning, and I was like, what the fuck? And but it was another one. This is a few years later, but it was Prince Batman soundtrack.
I don't give a shit what anybody says. Prince's Bat Dance. I love that song. I absolutely. People bash on that, even fans of Prince, but I love that song.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. That there's 3 songs on there I think are phenomenal and awesome, but there are two on there that I was like, just thinking about myself. But I remember having that tape one day, and I had to go with my mother to work, and I didn't have any other. I forgot to bring any other tapes. It was the only one I had with me. It has 9 songs in the damn thing. I listened to it for 8 hours straight, just over and over and over again. And I guess I blocked out some of it, but like, there's a song on there called "Scandalous."
Yeah.
And that one, I'm just like, I was listening to it the other day, and I was like, what the fuck? And what was the one? Orion.
Yeah. Not a child appropriate.
No.
like for being in like a Batman soundtrack, that's not a.
But I have to but listen to it. One thing I really loved about it was the fact that it was, to me, like a true, it was Repo Man was a cool soundtrack because it represented a lot of the music of the area that was going around. It just wasn't like songs thrown in there to
to appease and
But one thing I like about the Prince's Batman soundtrack,
Bat Dance.
Well, I love that last part, even the video. But anyway, but one thing I like about it, go back and listen to, is I like the fact that it includes in the songs the feel of the movie. And
well, they use it in the movie. I mean, they use that dance at the big parade and that the Joker throws. I'm spoiling a 30-year-old movie. I'm sorry, but they actually use it. They incorporate it into it. It's not just gratuitous. Where there's so many soundtracks that the music is a part of it, and it just kind of rolls along with it. But they actually use it, and I don't know why they call it Bat Dance, but whatever. I have the opening of that Prince song in my head now. We got a live one here.
Yeah, I mean, the sound,
I love it.
It is good, but it's like there are a couple songs on there. And you're just like, it just stops. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, this was in the movie. Wait a minute, this is like talking about.
Trying to think of when it happens.
Yeah, and it's just so weird. But I mean, I love it. The only thing I really truly hate about it is I hated growing up. I hated it, the cover where the bat symbol was cut out on each side.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know why, but it was just aesthetic. It bothered me. I was like, no, it needs to be rounded.
Should be. I mean, if you're going to be the Batman, I don't know, maybe that was for marketing or something. They couldn't use Batman or something.
I wonder if they printed it up. They're like, shit.
Yeah, they just offset it a little bit. They're like, no, man, that's how we do it. I don't know, man. My number one soundtrack, and again, I thought about this, and I was like, there are lots of. I do like a lot of soundtracks, but again, I like the songs and the music more. I don't really associate them with it so much. And then I was like, are we doing musicals? Am I doing this, that, because I honestly would have put money on yours being like Blues Brothers. I would have hands down said, oh, Keith's favorite is probably the Blues Brothers soundtrack. But mine is from a 1993 movie called Judgment Night.
I was going to bring that up. I have a whole thing to talk about that. Go ahead.
It was an entirely forgettable movie. Emilio Estevez, Cuba Gooding Jr., Dennis Leary. And at the time, that was when Dennis Leary was, that was his prime. That was his asshole prime, and everybody knew Dennis Leary. And it was this, it was the early 90s. It was 93, and we were starting to listen to other kinds of music. Rap was starting to, I don't know, kind of come into its own a little bit. It wasn't, because we listened to weirder stuff. And at the time, rap was weirder stuff. It wasn't mainstream like it is now. and some of these bands, grunge was blowing up, and we got like House of Pain and Helmet singing together. I love Helmet. I've always been a big Helmet fan. And Biohazard and Onyx singing song Judgment Night together. It was it's just I thought it was good. And I'm not a fan of rap rock. That's just it. But it's these bands and Body Count. I can't forget that. Slayer and Body Count, man. That's awesome.
I want to talk about Judgment Night was because when I was talking, that's one of the ones on my list, is because what was so cool about Judgment Night was because they did that, because they took two random artists and they put them together, like Sonic Youth and who was the other one? Oh God, was it Cypress Hill? And like, they would take, they took two different artists and they put together. So it was so original. It made it so cool.
It was good. It was that the up and coming, like the grunge jam, Pearl Jam, Mudhoney, Dinosaur Jr. They were all on this. And it's really, really good. And I was like, man, you couldn't do this again. You could not do this again if you saved your life. But it's such a good and memorable soundtrack. Could you tell me anything about the movie?
Yeah.
I saw it. I saw it in the movie theater. I could not tell you one thing about that.
They
movie.
Took a wrong turn off the.
They went to a game in a Winnebago or some shit. Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything, and I was like, man, what a colossal. I think that's one of the bad things. What a colossal waste it is, because it's such a good soundtrack with all of these huge names that eventually became huge names, and just wasted on a terrible movie. Like I'm like, maybe we could take the soundtrack and put it over another movie one day. Like, would that be cool?
No, the Blues Brothers soundtrack. Yeah, it is. I think it is a great one, but that one seems more like a musical to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
see, I wasn't sure if we were going to count that, or like Tommy was one of mine, but I'm like, oh well, that's that's the Who, and they basically made a movie about an album, so that's kind of the reverse of what we're looking for. I didn't know if that counted. So,
but then you started having a lot of people playing like the Reservoir Dogs, the Pulp Fiction, where like and Natural Born Killers, where they kept putting in scenes from the movie. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so every other videos, every other song was like a speech or something.
Oh yeah, they put in like a part of a monologue or dialogue from the film,
and it kept just
so annoying.
Yeah, and it just kept getting worse. Like, so Reservoir Dogs, it was real short and simple. That was fine. Then Pulp Fiction, it had a couple of good moments, and then you had Natural Born Killers, which oddly enough, Natural Born Killers didn't have one song on the soundtrack that was in the movie, and I remember this because in the movie there's a scene where they're showing the jail sequence, and they play a quick clip of Ghost Town by the Specials. Yeah. And it's not on the soundtrack.
Not on the soundtrack.
No.
I don't think I've seen that movie. I saw that in the theater. I don't think I've seen it since. I'm willing to bet it's probably not as good as
probably not
as the hype it was in the the 90s. That was the big thing.
But one person that drove me up the fucking wall, and the only reason why I bought this album is because I wanted one song that the artist was not releasing, and it was Zack and Miri Make a Porno, Kevin Smith movie. I wanted Fet's Vet, and
was it not on the soundtrack?
It was on the soundtrack, but you had to buy the whole damn soundtrack to get the song from iTunes, and like I couldn't just buy the song, and
well, that guy's the dick anyway. So
but he took all that in every other song, and he would it wasn't even like short bits. It was like full on, like it felt like full on scenes. I'm like, dude, just. Did you ever buy tape soundtrack just forget one song?
I probably did. I probably bought. I couldn't think of anything, man. Most of my stuff was dubbed. I mean, on dubbed. Like I'm some DJ or audio technician. I basically copied tapes. How about that? Yeah. No, I don't think. Man, I'm sure that I did. I'm 100% sure that I did. But nothing is coming to my mind. That's the whole thing. Is none of these soundtracks are really that memorable. I guess. Like I said, Judgment Night's memorable. I think if I was going to work out, I'd probably pop that, but I'm not that lazy piece of crap, and I'm not going to work out. Maybe this spring when I mow the lawn, I'll throw that on. Good for that.
I think one of mine that like I actually when I was a kid I bought. It's gonna be funny. I bought it because at the time I was really into Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Do you know what state they're from?
California, right?
Are you sure?
I don't know. Like when Blood Sugar
That's
Sex
the joke.
Oh, I get it now. But at the time, I bought the Pretty Woman soundtrack because they had Show Me Your Soul on it, which wasn't released on anything else, and I wanted it. I had to have it.
I did buy a soundtrack for one song. Yes, Less Than Zero.
Going
there
back
was
to
a
Cali?
Danzig song on. No, there was a Danzig song on
Oh.
it. And I got that. I was like, because I was into that shit then, and I'm still into Danzig. I'll admit it freely. But yeah, I bought Less Than Zero. Then I got it, and I was like, why did I buy Less Than Zero soundtrack?
Yeah.
This movie's been out for like 15, 20 years. Why am I buying this? So I did. Like I said, I don't like a lot of soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
Another 90s soundtrack, as a matter of fact, Singles.
Oh yeah.
Singles. The movie came out in 1992. The movie,
I didn't even have that one written down.
Dude, the movie is dated as shit.
Yeah, no, I love that soundtrack.
Watch it. Yeah. But it is literally the birth of grunge, of the Seattle grunge scene.
Yeah.
That movie just kind of spawned so much. It's and it's not the most popular of things, but it's Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Mother Love Bone, Soundgarden. It's that whole scene and vibe, and it's the movie again a little forgettable, very dated at this point, but
but
I love the soundtrack.
I
Paul Westerberg.
God, I totally spaced on Singles, man. Like that I can't believe I didn't even think of it, because I do enjoy that one.
That was one of the first ones that came to my mind. I was like, well, I mean, after I went through like SLC Punk, I love SLC Punk, but I was like, that's it's a movie about a different time, and they're not stealing, but they're using music from a different time. So I didn't really want to count that. And Suburbia, I love Suburbia. I think it's a great movie. But I was like, there's only like 4 songs on that, and the rest is something else. And then Tommy, any of the Who's or the Beatles or anything like that, where they took a band, made an album, and then they made it a movie. I'm like, can we count those? Are those soundtracks? Are those movie tracks? Or what do we even call those? So.
No, like it's funny because when you look at soundtracks now, one thing I noticed, certain songs that come on and whatnot, everybody's like, oh yeah, this is off the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. And
I mean,
and I'm like, well,
to them it is. I mean, to them
exactly.
It is.
And so I was like, wow. I was like, I go, well, good job. They opened up which I would say it is a good mix. I think it is. It
is
good songs, but it's just interesting that like those artists now will be like forever attributed to it's the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians, soundtrack. They're not. I think it's a great soundtrack, and that's music that the Marvel Cinematic Universe generation might not have been exposed to had they not seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I'm sure they heard the songs, or they probably saw it in a commercial or whatever, but they wouldn't have been exposed to it en masse like the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. I'm sure a lot of people went out and bought that. Man, I should have wrote Guardians of the Galaxy down, but I'm an idiot.
One that I don't know if I ever owned it, or if I just listened to it, or if I did, or if my memory is just failing me. But New Jack City.
I had that. Yes. So
okay.
You probably had that.
Okay. If you had, then that must have been where I was hearing it from. Because I remember
love that.
I don't think I owned it, but I remember listening the New Jack. I love.
Seeing Ice-T perform that song.
Yeah.
And, I was in the front row. Oh, so good. Oh, it's so awesome. I was like, I'm seeing Hustler live. This is awesome.
Yeah.
The whitest dude here. I didn't care. I knew all the words to it too. I was like, call me on stage. I know all the words.
Yeah, I was trying to explain that movie to a guy at work the other day. He kept asking me, he goes, you ever seen the movie Colors? And I was like,
yes.
And I was like, well, yeah. I don't remember it as much as I do New Jack City. And then this is so dumb, because he goes, I've never seen New Jack City. And I looked at him and I was like, dude, you sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
Shoot
like,
you so
what?
bad, my dick's hard.
I know. And he's like,
So many good lines.
I was like, you go watch that tonight. I was like, if you're talking about colors, seeing that
sounded like an old man. You go watch that tonight, son.
I know. You have to watch it.
Oh, they are. Yeah, I guess like Colors, New Jack City. Those would be good, solid soundtracks.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think in the 80s, like the movie companies worked with the music companies, or they were all Warner Brothers or big companies, and like Top Gun, they'd say, Kenny Loggins, we need 6 songs for this movie, and he would just write 6 songs, and they would be exclusively for the Top Gun soundtrack for 6 months, and then, or like a year, and then he could release them on his album. But like they got him for that movie, and then they would use it. They put the music video would be all movie clips. Back in the day when we were watching music videos, it was we either had a cinematic event for the video, or just watching the band play. Those were our two. Then occasionally, like, we'd get a movie thing, and it would be like a 3-minute movie commercial, and they'd show clips from the movie. And I don't know.
Wasn't Kenny Loggins? Wasn't he like a soundtrack genius? Like, he Caddyshack.
Did he do Caddyshack? I know he did a bunch of movies. You know what? Why do we not look this stuff up?
I'm all right.
Yeah. Like he was like the 80s soundtrack. I think if you think about it, like, because he did some big blockbusters, and I don't know if that was by design or just like he was hitting the right stuff at the right time. Kenny Loggins, good for him, man.
Another, going back to Prince's Batman. Another interesting thing about, like, when I was going through when I was scrolling through and just looking at which soundtracks I kept and held on to, a lot from that Batman movie. Not just that, but Danny Elfman's score. I know we're not talking about scores, but his score from that movie, I love listening to. Like, it's
Danny Elfman's. I mean, he's a class. Yeah, he's we could do a whole composer thing, and him and John Williams. We could just talk about them for an hour and a half.
But like, it's just that I guess that there's something about that, like, it was just so good. Scandalous.
That was a children's movie, for God's sakes. They sold Happy Meal toys for the Batman movie. I mean, that was 89. That was the big blockbuster, man. I remember that summer. Everything was black and gold. Everything.
Yeah, and I remember that movie lived up for me too. Like, I remember seeing it and just
it still does. I will say, hands down, that is my favorite. That is the best Batman movie.
It is good.
I think it's the best Batman movie, and I think Jack Nicholson is I'll say it right now, I don't give a shit. Jack Nicholson is the best Joker. Best Joker. When
I listened to that soundtrack from beginning to end the other day, I was transported back to that love. And because like I said, it's perfectly intertwined. You know what I mean? The dialogue and the music, I think, is put together so well that I was just like, I love everything about it. It just made me I was like, yeah, this is great.
Well, you associate the movie with the soundtrack. I mean, it's doing its job. It's bringing you to a point where you're thinking about the Joker running through the art museum, slapping paint on everything, and it's. Yeah, it's so good. And I want somebody with better skills than me to, like, I don't know, not Photoshop, but like mash up all the Batman movies. So it's like Keaton and Heath Ledger going. I want to watch them all, though.
Yeah.
Do that. I'm trying to think. Did soundtracks, like when we bought soundtracks, were they in order like they were in the movie? I don't think they were. I don't think they were. Maybe, why didn't they do that? Why the hell didn't they do that?
I don't know. I know that, like, it drives me crazy on we talk about scores now again. I listen to a lot of the John Williams scores, and it drives me crazy that Return of the Jedi and Star Wars they're out of order of how the movie goes.
Well, then I guess they don't.
Because, like, listen to the sound. I'm going through the movie in my head. And I'm like,
just make a playlist, man.
No, I want it to be the way it should be.
Make your own soundtrack. Make your own soundtrack.
No, I paid for it. And I want it to be in order. I want it to be the way I remember it. Oh, I just had another one that came to mind that I really like. I mean, it was great. It's still great. Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one.
because I liked the Sex Bomb
Sex Bomb,
songs.
yeah.
And,
yeah, they were really good.
And it was weird because like in that it was Beck wrote those songs and the Sex Bomb songs, and it's kind of funny because like he has also on that soundtrack he has his versions that so you
That's
have
pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
But the Sex Bomb ones are better because it's not polished.
Right. It's a little more garage. I can see that.
I don't like. I get so annoyed when everything just sounds perfect, and like it just. I mean, I don't mind it some things, but most time when I'm listening to music, I like it to be. I don't know. It's like sloppy and like it's just fun listening to it.
And right, we obviously we like rock and roll, and rock and roll's a little sloppy. It's a little dangerous. It's unpolished, and that's what we jive to. So it is what it is. That's a good one. I like that. Yes. Swingers. I like Swingers. Swingers came out, and that was a time in my life where like I was really into that. That the look and the dance and all that, and it had a little country, a little rock and roll, little bit of everything, and I really like the Swingers soundtrack. It was a jam for me. I could still put it on and enjoy it.
It's funny, like think about that. Like I remember a lot of these soundtracks because. For those that you didn't know, in the early 90s, we didn't have Spotify and all the things, Jesus, Pandora.
We couldn't even burn CDs in the early 90s. No. That was crazy.
So I remember being at the restaurant I worked at, we would buy those soundtracks and put them on because it was the only thing that had different songs that would play. So it wasn't like, one band because we would get in trouble. If they didn't know we were playing a CD, we wouldn't get in trouble. So that's one thing that used to make me mad about Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs is that a speech between songs.
They should at least have the option to have bought the soundtrack without that. And I understand it's a soundtrack, and that was at the time that's what they were doing. They were associating it with the movie. So, but they should have. I would have paid more for a soundtrack without that.
Those are all the ones.
I think. Reality Bites. I want to throw that one. Yeah. I love that movie, and I know it's not the greatest soundtrack, but Reality Bites soundtrack. I had a huge crush on Winona Ryder, and that scene in the movie where she's pumping gas. Winona Ryder. So my wife's gonna bust my chops for. When I knew she was filming in Atlanta, I used to say that at trivia. And like, look, if she's in Atlanta, tell her to come play trivia. She never came. What am I going to say? Oh, I'm married with 2 kids? No, my wife's going to come down here and kick your ass. Get out of here, Winona Ryder. I'm trying to keep you safe.
That would be weird.
My wife would beat my ass first.
If you came home and you're like, I had to tell Winona Ryder tonight that you were going to come down and beat her ass and that I had 2 kids. I want you to know that first from me before anything else comes out.
Before you hear this from TMZ, I just need you to know I sent her away.
I said it. I said it.
Wait, what would I say? I'd just be like, hey, you want to can I have your autograph? So, is your clown down for any soundtrack in particular?
Well,
I think it is. I think I know which one it is.
I think it's Prince's Batman. Has to be. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, and the more I think about it. I mean, originally it was Repo Man when I was thinking about it because of what it did for me.
Right.
What it spawned for me, what it created, what it like introduced me to, what doors it opened up to. But then again, some of the music that like I fell more in love with, and like the Dead Milkmen wasn't on that. It unlocked a door. But like the one I have my best memories of are I guess it's gonna have to be Prince's Batman soundtrack. It's just
I gotta say, man, after this little conversation, I think my clown is down for Prince's Batman too. I'm not gonna lie, I love it anyway. It's seriously one of my top Prince songs, period. And the summer of '89 with Batman and associating that with it, and being the age that I was and still asking my parents to get me a Happy Meal so I could get the Batman thing. And they're like, how old are you? I'm like, but it's Batman. I think that was the first movie I ever went to go see by myself. that like, my parents would drop me off.
Mhm.
You and I saw several movies. I tried to get my kid to watch Pee Wee Herman today, but she wouldn't do it. I think that was the first movie I convinced my parents to let me go see by myself, without any like. They dropped me off. I was like, all right, have fun at Batman. We're gonna go do our thing. So, I saw that so many times too. So
Cloud is down.
My cloud's down for Princess Batman too. 100%.
I'm with it.
Excellent.
Hold on a sec. Woman, can you 1 second? Come here, please.
You call her woman, please.
What was that story you told me a while back about Winona Ryder? That someone saw him at the bar?
Yeah, Ben met her at a bar, and he just sat down next to her, and she started going, every day it's a getting
Shut the fuck up.
faster like a roller coaster. Started singing that song out of nowhere.
I would have sung that song with her, and that would have been awesome. And then I would have sent her away.
Yes.
Be gone with you, Ryder. You think we're wrong, or you think our clown should not have been down, let us know why. Let us know why we're wrong, or you think we're wrong. Because remember, these are our opinions.
That's right.
Winona Ryder.